Hi guys, guess what? It's John Judd again. I have 11 more keyboard shortcuts for you. Once again, these are not in any particular order. They just happen to be as I wrote them down, but they're all pretty much essential to my workflow. Without further ado, number one, in the mixer, select a track. And if we want to rename or recolor or add an icon to such a track, we're going to hit Shift, left click, and that brings up our options. Add colors, names, and icons. Number two, let's say we have a whole bunch of patterns in a project. I don't have a lot in this particular project because it's not really a song. Let's say you have a whole bunch of patterns in your song and you're trying to navigate through those. On your number pad, if you hit plus or minus, it's going to bring different patterns up for you. So that's a really quick way to navigate patterns. Now here's a bit of a funny one. I didn't discover this until recently, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it because it's not a perfect hand motion. In the playlist, for the longest time when choosing the audio clips, not really audio clips, but mostly patterns. When choosing patterns, I had this habit of going up here and hitting this arrow. You can go through and select the audio clip, or you can select your pattern. I don't know if I think that's terribly convenient. It isn't awfully inconvenient, but it maybe wasn't ideal. On your mouse, if your mouse happens to be good at all, you're going to have, you have your two normal clicky buttons and a mouse wheel. On the right of your mouse, there is a little button there, and that right button will bring up the things that you need, and then you can choose accordingly. I don't even know what to call this thing. I'm sure gamers would know. Okay, so have you ever been in this particular situation? Let's say you had your synth up, getting the groove going, doing your thing, and all of a sudden you need to mess with something in the playlist, and your synth disappears. Way annoying. So what we need is to keep focus on this particular plugin, and the way you do that is you hit this little arrow thingy and you hit D, which means detached. And now when you go over here, you're still shifting focus when you're clicking on the other window, but the main synth or whatever it is not going to disappear on you. So that's D from the menu. Number 5, this is one I use all the time. And it's when you have the sample properties open and you want to mess with that sample or audio clip in a certain way. You hit Control E. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually not going to do this right now because I had something funny happen. I'm recording it with 2 Edisons, and it, for some reason, grabbed one of those Edisons and destroyed what I had in there. So I'm not going to really do this. Hit it, but know that if you hit Control E, that'll bring up one of these. Trust me, it'll do it. I use it all the time. Okay, here's a simple one. If you're saving your project and you don't feel like going into File, Save, or Save As, just hit Control S. Like most Windows programs, it seems like a simple thing, but I've seen some funny things in the forums where people didn't know how to save their project. Yeah, and if you want to save a different version of it, there are a whole bunch of options here, but for the most part, if you hit Control S, you're good. Number 7, rendering. Now, I don't know if you do this, the whole export wave file, or you have your choices here. I don't do that. I actually hit Control R. Let's say you've highlighted some of your playlist. And this will be how you're going to save it. After that window, it'll give you the options in terms of export. So I use Control R. It's a really fast way, so you don't have to navigate that window, the export window. You will have to deal with some export options, but you won't have to deal with that window. Number 8, I have a whole bunch of audio here that I just drew, and let's say that was a mistake, like I happened to just swipe my hand across and it was a mistake. Control Z. Like most Windows programs, it'll undo what you just did. I think I have my undo levels set to like literally 1. There's no room for mistakes in my workflow, apparently. Number 9, Quantize. Let's say all these guys were off grid. If you hit Control Q, they will be quantized. Let's say I undo that. But they're quantized according to the snap. This little horseshoe thingy, icon, if you have a different snap, that's going to mess with how they're quantized. It just moved them. Had a different snap again. I don't know, maybe right there. That didn't do much, but it did tighten it up. Number 10, seems like a simple one. Control and left click. I don't think that's a shortcut, but if you don't know how to highlight, now you do. Number 11, escape. That is probably one of the most helpful things you can imagine. Let's say you've had a whole bunch of these things open and you're just like your screen is cluttered and you're dying. Escape is going to make the windows disappear one by one. So the escape is kind of the perfect thing to get rid of windows you don't want. Thanks for watching. That was 11 Keyboard Shortcuts, Volume 2.